I guess I'll go play some poker today. Let's see. Let me order a ride. 888 ride. It's right around the corner. Let's try it out. Wow, he's here already. Let's go.
Hey, Jesse.
Tuck?
Okay, in the car, the one and only Jesse Lonis, the #1 ranked GPI player in the world.
Yeah.
How does that sound?
It sounds crazy to hear, actually. It's like hard to be #1 in anything in the world, I feel like. So, especially in poker, where anyone can play the game, and it's an honor, actually, and just all the work and dedication just to hear that it's worth it.
You tweeted that this was something like this was your goal.
Yeah.
But did you think you'd ever attain it?
So
I mean, realistically?
I always have pretty high belief, have always been really confident in myself, so I definitely thought I would get there at some point. I never thought it would ever happen this quick, because it was kind of like 3 or 4 years ago I just started playing tournaments, so it was like, I thought it was going to take probably, at least 10 years before I started cracking like top 5, but I obviously got lucky with a natural ability in tournaments, so it happened way quicker than what anyone probably thought.
What is it about your play that translates so well to tournaments?
I think the fact that you're going against all walks of life from all different places, and just being able to play against super pros and being able to play against uncles and aunts, I'm very good at being able just to, no matter who I'm playing or what type of person, just being able to exploit what they're thinking in a way, and use that against them, which I think a lot of high-level pros are more relying on charts and like certain positions and hand strength, and they're not really playing the person as much as they're playing their hand.
Okay, so would you describe your style as not necessarily GTO, but more exploitive?
Yeah, I mean, so people don't, when they look at my style, they call it street style, but in reality, I still understand all the, charts. I mean, not obviously perfect, but I understand. I'm not like a complete idiot when it comes to that part of the game, but definitely what separates me from most people is the live ability to just feel what's going on in the moment and trusting that and going off that and reacting.
You're from upstate New York. Whenever I think upstate New York poker, I think Sean Deeb, and we've had Sean Deeb in the 888 ride as well.
Yeah.
If you missed that episode, by the way, you can check it out on YouTube now. But anyway, I'm always plugging, man. Always
yeah,
working.
You gotta. Yeah.
But I think of his the same way, and I feel like there's this misconception among people in the poker community and maybe people outside the poker community who are like looking inside. They think that, okay, you're either playing street poker and you're a live field player, or you're using charts and you're a robot and you're a GTO.
Yeah.
And the truth of the matter is, it's a merge, right?
Course,
I mean,
yeah.
it's not black and white, right?
No. And any great player is not just those two aspects either. In poker, I feel like there's 1,000 different ways to get better, and it's kind of just perfecting each of those little things and plugging up every leak in any spot that there is to get better. And yeah, there's so much to poker. You could sit here for days and talk about different strategies and different ways to get better.
I've only got you for like an hour.
Yeah. So, you only got me for an hour. So.
But we can do as much as we can.
Yeah.
Do you work on your game? Do you study?
The work I do in my game is just by learning from my previous mistakes and really trying to memorize those, and a lot of pattern recognition, just being able to see where I went wrong in tournaments and just fixing those leaks. And then if you keep doing that, then eventually you're going to have no leaks, and then eventually it's going to be easier to win and win because you're not making any mistakes. It's just, you're going to have to start getting really unlucky at points, which, obviously can happen in tournaments. You need to have some good fortune, but yeah, just have everything put together is pretty much. I'm kind of.
What's your leak now? Like if you have to say, like, okay, I've got this.
Probably. I guess my main leak for tournaments, would maybe being too aggressive in early levels. I kind of don't have the patience like I used to in the early levels to sit there and just like
grind.
I'm more, which, I can if it's a very important tournament, but like this summer is very long, so to sit there in the early levels, I was catching myself in this Mystery Millions tournament that everyone just was, playing right now, but I'm catching myself like going for it a little too much in early levels where like if I could sit back, take a breath, and just play my game, it'd probably be a little better. So I'm trying to work on that, just in the early levels, approach it more serious and not make any mistakes.
That's got to be so difficult. I mean, you look throughout your poker playing, and whether you're a 5-10 player now,
yeah,
or a 50-100 player, or whether you're playing $300 tournaments or $30,000 tournaments,
yep,
there comes a point where if you go back and you play below your stakes,
yeah,
it's really hard to play your game.
Yeah, it is. It's and that's, I respect a lot of really high level, solid guys, because there's some of them that can just, no matter, like for instance, like a Brian Altman, who no matter what he's playing, he's always just.
Shout out to you, Brian.
Yeah, shout out to Brian Altman. He always just locked in, no matter what the stakes is, just always present and just in the flow, no matter what it is. Just takes it very serious, where that can be one of, like I said, that can be one of my downfalls a little bit, is where some of the smaller stuff I'm not taking as serious when I really should take every moment serious when I'm at the table.
Well, let's talk about some of the smaller stuff. I want to go back. I was looking through, your bio on Hendon Mob and stuff, and you have an insane amount of scores. If you guys don't believe me, check out Jesse Lonis on Hendon Mob. It's stupid over the last like 3 years.
Yeah.
But you mentioned you kind of like jumped into tournament poker about 4 years ago, and I noticed late 2019 you had a score in Lincoln Park, I want to say, and then one at the Wynn. It was in September.
Yep.
And they were both for $7,000. And before that, like, your scores were $660.
Yep.
$1,100. They were not, and you had two back-to-back $7,000 scores, and then not soon after,
yep,
you had a $12,000 score, another $10,000 score, a $27,000 score, and it just looked like, it was like there was gasoline on the house.
Yep.
And then September, like somebody turned the ignition on and went.
Yeah. Something clicked.
I was gonna say, did something click? Was there an epiphany at that time in your life?
Yeah. So, like we were talking about earlier, I grew up playing cash, so I never really had any background. The only background I had in the tournaments was watching videos online of old World Series of Poker reruns and stuff like that.
Right.
So it was kind of like, I was new. Like when I was playing in New York, any tournament scores I had there was just all off of just feel, just playing for fun.
By the way, while you were watching those old World Series of Poker videos,
yeah,
who was your favorite commentator?
Yeah, it was definitely the David Tuckman guy for sure.
Thank you.
It wasn't.
I mean, I didn't tell him to say that, by the way. I just want to let you know, I did not tell him to say that.
Yeah, I mean, your competition wasn't too hard. You were going against Norman Chad. I mean,
you're my favorite ride ever now. Okay, you have now become my favorite ride.
Shout out to Norman. I love Norman.
Okay, so you were playing cash games, you jumped into tournaments.
Yep.
Continue.
So the turning point for me, with tournaments, where I knew I was going to start taking it serious, was when I was in New York. My buddy took me on a trip to Borgata, and they had one of their big, one of their big tours that they used to have back in the day, and I had like probably, I don't know, $1,200 to my name probably, and there was a $400 buy-in. And I played it, and it was my first time ever seeing like a field of like 5,000 people in one room. And just walking in that room, hearing the chips, it was just electric. It just like I knew that I was where I needed to be for poker. And I played that tournament, and whatever. Long story short, I realized, okay, I want to start playing tournaments. So
Right, but you had 33% of your bankroll
yeah, exactly.
in there.
Yeah.
How did you build a bankroll? Play at all?
So it was a lot of up and downs in my bankroll. I was playing cash games, and anyone that knows that plays cash, like, realistically, starting off, it's not just, you don't just win. Especially I was learning. I wasn't the player I was now, you know. I was just trying to perfect it. And eventually I caught a nice groove in cash where I started playing bigger, and I went on a nice streak, and I saved
When you say
up.
bigger, what's bigger?
I was playing just a bigger 2-5 no limit game that was a deeper cap.
Okay.
The game I was playing before was like a 500 max at Turning Stone, and then once I went to Rivers Casino, they had a 1500 max 2-5, which was a way bigger game. You know, by the end of the
Rivers
night.
is a nice spot. I like Rivers.
Yeah, no, it was a great spot. And then I was playing 2040 limit and 5100 limit, and ended up. And in the back of my head, I had that goal of I want to play tournaments. I want to move out west and play tournaments because that's where all the tournaments are. So I think having that goal really helped me take it serious, and I ended up saving up like 60, 70,000, and I was like, all right, this is enough to make the trip. And then took the trip out west, and that was kind of where the tournament story began. I started really digging into tournaments, started watching a lot of Poker Go stuff, was watching Adamo at the time. He was crushing everybody. So he was like my favorite, and I was literally just watching any footage I could find on him. You know, seeing Jason Kuhn, all these just crushers. I started really studying those guys, just the top level guys, and I was like, if I can take a little piece of all their games and try to put it into my game and play smaller tournaments, I'm sure it's gonna help me just, you know, be dominant. And
I love that you just said that, by the way, because I think a lot of players make the mistake of trying to emulate another pro.
yeah,
And I think that's impossible.
Yeah.
I think the best thing you can do is, hey, if I can take a little bit of Negreanu and a little bit of Adamo and a little bit of Kuhn
Yep.
and make it work for me,
yeah,
then I have a chance.
yep, and honestly, that's how my game started. It was taking a piece from those guys, and then taking my natural abilities and just sitting there. And from the get-go, it kind of, as soon as I my first tournament stop was Lincoln City.
Wait, so that was on the way out?
Huh?
Was that on the way out?
What do you mean?
Like, were you driving out to Vegas?
No. I moved to Oregon first.
You moved to Oregon, okay.
Yes, my first stop when I moved.
So you went from upstate New York
to Oregon.
And for those of you who don't know, kind of like upstate, like central. People
Yeah.
don't realize how big New York is, by the way.
Yes.
New York is it's not just New York City.
No,
if
it's
you
huge.
visit New York City, you have not been to New York. You've been to New York City.
Yep.
Okay? There's
Yeah.
an entire upstate area.
Yeah.
Like my wife is from upstate New York.
Yeah.
She grew up next to cows.
Yeah.
Okay?
Exactly. Yeah. 1 minute you're with cows, the next minute you could be in the city. It's upstate New York special like that, where you could be, you know, in Albany, and then 20 minutes later you could be right next to cows or whatever.
I like to think of Albany as the armpit of New York.
Yeah, no, it definitely is. I think that whole area is definitely special.
I want to get into your childhood in upstate New York.
Yeah.
Are there things about upstate New York you miss?
Yeah, I mean, just the family and friends I had growing up. I always, you know, had a good, close, just a lot of good friends and stuff. And you know, it's a beautiful place sometime for, you know, during the year, but I don't miss winters. And I live in Vegas now, so it's hard to miss too much because Vegas is kind of, I don't know, I love Vegas. When I'm here, I feel like I'm on vacation every day. So this is my home
I mean,
now.
in fairness, you look like you're on vacation. So
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Just living the life. Okay, let's go back to this. So you're driving cross country.
So-
you decide Oregon. Why Oregon, by the way?
My best friend in high school actually lived there.
Okay.
And I didn't want to take my 60 grand and move right to Vegas because I just had a feeling that could be gone really quick, and I didn't want to be broke in Vegas with, you know, she was my girlfriend at the time, but my wife now. So it's like, I just thought it'd be smarter to go somewhere where there's not so many vices, and I could just go and then fly to Vegas or fly to LA. Because at the time still, I told myself, you know, I could always play cash to make money. So I would go to LA a lot because there was cheap flights. Where I lived in Oregon, you could fly to Vegas or LA for like $80, and it took like
Perfect.
a couple hours. Exactly.
Right.
And it was a good home base to start off. And
I know a lot of players that used to do that. Danielle Moon, who's from Minnesota, before she moved to Vegas.
Yeah.
She used to take these trips. Like, she would come to LA.
Yep.
For, 10 days.
Yep.
And be like, I'm gonna just grind and play 15 hours a day and just crush it, and then go back home.
Yep. I did kind of the same thing. I would go to LA and play just for like 4 or 5 days, but I would play Limit Hold'em, and I would play 40-hour sessions. No joke.
Were you playing Commerce?
The bicycle a lot.
Okay.
Actually, at that time, they just treated you really well at the bike, and at the time I just liked the environment there, and it was a nice little spot. So
what were you playing there? Was it 30-60 or?
No, it was 40-80.
40-80. Okay, I remember
40-80 limit. Yep. So yeah, I would grind that pretty heavy. But then going into tournaments, the first stop I did, they had a small Lincoln City, Oregon. That's in northern Oregon. I took the trip up there. The buy-ins are like small, and I was like, this is probably a very soft place to play. I've never really heard of it. It's in the middle of nowhere.
People aren't going like, hey man, I heard this is an awesome tournament in Lincoln City, Oregon. Let's
exactly.
go get it. What was the buy-in?
There was actually, it was a whole little series. So
okay.
I think the buy-ins ranged from probably 200 to I think the main event was 600 maybe, or
yeah.
Can't really remember exactly, but I went up there with my girl and my friend. We took a trip, had a great time, and that was like my first tournament stop. And then I remember the first tournament I played, I went deep in it, and like felt very comfortable at the table, and just like felt like no one had no idea what I was doing, and I could just read everybody pretty perfect. So I was like, okay, this is, maybe it's just a coincidence or whatever. And then the main event there is when I had my first big score. I went deep, and like I think it was like 7 big score, I say, but that was big at the time. It was like 7,000 or whatever. And that trip really gave me confidence, knowing that, okay, I think I really can do something in tournaments. And then and then I went to Vegas and played at the Wynn, and
by the way, I mean, the $7,000 score for many of us out there, like, that's a big score, and I know I know that's not lost on you, but obviously you look back and you've made millions now.
Yeah.
But that first score is like so big.
No, it's huge. It's important. And then and then I think, I can't remember the exact order, but I know I went to Thunder Valley in Sacramento, and I won a tournament there for like 14,000. It was a ring event, the World Series. They had like a small circuit there, and just those few, just to be able to get those early wins and build the confidence, those are all huge. And then obviously I took the trip to the Wynn and scored for 27K in a tournament there. Again, was just, for as much volume, I didn't have much volume at all. I had instant kind of success in making deep runs and everything and building up stacks. So it was, obviously.
Were you starting to be on the radar now? Did people be like, who's this guy?
No, not at all. No, it took a while. I mean, to be fair, I think it took a while to get to that point. After I had that 27K score, like I said, I went right back to Oregon and was just back to everyday life. So I don't think anyone really knew me then, just another kid that was grinding.
You luck box the tournament. Good job here.
Exactly. And then when Florida happened, that was the turning point of my whole poker career, when obviously my big score down in Florida.
Yeah.
Again,
we'll talk about that in a second.
Okay, cool.
When you I want to get back to you. You and your girlfriend, now wife.
Yep.
Going cross country.
Yeah.
When you told her the plan.
Yeah.
Or when you discussed the plan with her, and I don't know how it happened.
Yeah.
What was her reaction? Was she supportive?
So
was she like, what are we thinking here?
We both kind of came from like poorer beginnings. Like, what we both had a roof over our head and everything, and hers was easier than mine, her beginning, but we never had anything to lose, really. It was kind of like we came from nothing anyway. Neither, you know what I mean? We had nothing to lose, and she just knew my whole life. If I said I was going to do it or whatever, I was just, with sports or anything. She'd never seen me really lose or give up in anything, so she knew that she was in kind of safe hands, that I would figure something out no matter what to make sure that we would make it, So she was always supportive. She just she trusted me. So.
So let's go to that Florida trip.
Yeah.
You go down there, and you big. What was the score in that one?
250,000.
Yeah, I was gonna say okay. So you just made $250,000.
Yeah.
At this point, before you played that tournament, and maybe even a year earlier, your net worth is what?
So, like I said, I had a 27K score, but I ended up going back to Oregon. Maybe I played a few different tournaments. Whatever happened, I had to pay off a car. I just bought a car. That 27K was like my roll. I had like 30K roll, but I ended up having to pay, life expenses, whatever. That 30K roll went back down to like 8K by the time I went to Florida.
Yeah.
Yeah,
that's happened to me before too.
Of course. So I had like $8,000 to my name, and then when I went to Florida, I remember I bricked like the beginning of the series, so that now I lost like half my money. So now I had like 4K.
Did you have a backer or anything?
No, this was all me.
You're just like YOLO. Right?
Yeah, exactly. It was YOLO. No one believes in you in that stage. Like, I'm still just at that point in your poker career, you're on your own, kind of.
Yeah.
No one's gonna, unless you know somebody.
It's like like a baby alligator.
Exactly. Okay. And so when I was in Florida, lost like half the roll, and then the first day of that main event, it was actually I satellited into it for $400. I never would have bought in. It was $3,500. I couldn't even, obviously I wouldn't have been able to buy it. So I did a satellite for $400, and I won a satellite to get into the main.
Satellites are great ways to get into big tournaments, guys.
Of course.
Anyway,
yeah.
Continue on. Sorry.
Yep. So for $400, I got into the $3,500, and the first day of the tournament, I get a call from my wife, girlfriend at the time, telling me, "Hey, babe, I'm pregnant." And I'm like, "Whoa." And yeah, my heart dropped, because now I'm sitting there like a lost soul with $4,000 in my name in this tournament. Like, all right, time to lock in and not lose. Like, and that's pretty much what I did in that tournament. I just remember it was kind of like a refuse to lose style, where I said, I can't bust this. Like, I was literally flatting. Like, I just remember like getting pocket kings and flatting them pre-flop, because I'm like, this guy has a chance. He could have aces, and I'm not going broke here. And like, I played like the most Daniel Negreanu small ball style ever, just to, and in a way, it kind of transformed my game even a little more, where it made me realize, you know what, like a lot of these, you can avoid coolers and stuff. To like, I know it may not seem right, but like if you read strength really crazy and you're strong, you don't have to take these crazy high variance spots. You can like play it small and just avoid a situation where you may be out of the tournament. But whatever. So hearing that I'm going to have the kids was all the extra motivation. And at the time I was supposed to have twins, and is what I got the call. So I'm now getting a call that I'm supposed to have twins. And I'm oh my, exactly. So whatever, locked in. Ended up running over the field pretty crazy. Like, I had a huge chip lead going into with like 13 people left. Ended up bluffing away all the chips with like 13 left, but bagged enough to make it and got fifth for $250,000. And then that was the start of my bankroll, started being able to start firing what I wanted to fire. And once I was comfortable, it kind of...
Talk about some baby run good.
Yeah, it was insane. It was, I definitely believe in a higher power. I don't know what the higher power is. I don't know what their name is or who it is, but definitely something was with me that day for sure.
That phone call must have just... Were you guys trying, or?
Not trying, not trying,
okay,
whatever.
Yeah. I've been there.
Yeah, exactly. I wasn't expecting, I definitely wasn't expecting to get a call that I'm going to be having one kid or two kids, by the way. We ended up only having one. It was, false alarm for the twins or whatever. But, yeah, that was the beginning.
How crazy is that? You get the call.
Yeah.
And then you're like, okay, I'm locked in. I cannot lose. And then you friggin' bank it.
Yeah, for $250,000.
What we'll just say, yeah. I mean, whether it's fourth or fifth, who cares?
Yeah,
That's
exactly.
$250K at that point.
That was, especially from where I'm from and just how I grew up. Nobody in my family really ever had $250K cash to their name. It was.
Your wife's name is Megan.
Megan.
Yeah. What was her reaction? Was she following along, like on poker news and stuff?
Yeah, she was. Yep, she was. Every update, she was keeping anyone, any friends or family on Facebook and stuff. She was keeping everybody informed, and she was just obviously ecstatic. She believed, she knew that eventually. She was watching me make these runs already in the tournaments,
right?
And just knew that it was gonna happen.
It was gonna happen.
Yeah,
but it's just so perfect for it to happen then.
Yeah, it was. It was, you know, it's like out of a movie, honestly. Like, just everything. Honestly, in the last 4 years, my life feels like it's been like some type of fucking Hollywood movie. And
Maybe it'll be a movie.
Yeah, maybe one day.
Who would play you?
Yeah. I don't know. Honestly, I don't know.
We'll figure that out.
Yeah,
we have
figure
plenty
that
of time
out.
for the movie, okay?
Yeah.
I mean, I feel like we're still, you know, we're
Yeah.
only like 20 minutes into the movie, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Got a long way to go.
Yes, exactly. Yep.
So, I mean, that must have made the pregnancy so much easier.
It
Just
did.
because, I mean, it's, you know, I've got 2 kids. You know, I know how it can be, and you're scared, you're nervous.
Yep.
Obviously, the mother is all those feelings.
Yep.
And I can only imagine, like, now you're thinking, like, you're just like, okay, listen, the financial side of it, we got covered. We're good.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, I was, it was more, now I kind of wanted to, now I had to balance setting up my future as a poker player and setting up my future as a father. So the next move was, what am I going to do in the future? So I wanted to obviously, now I wanted to take poker more serious than ever at this point. So I decided the next step would to be buy a house in Vegas before the baby arrives. And
Okay, so that was what
that was my first big
the
purchase.
impetus to move to Vegas.
Yep, that was what brought me to Vegas. Exactly. I said I got a kid. I want to be home every night with my family.
Do you have friends in Vegas at this point? Not yet.
No, not really. Maybe actually just probably one person one person that I met in Florida who gave me good advice when I was in Florida. My buddy Jeremy Pekarik. He won a bracelet like a year before that for like $400,000 in some like $800 tournament, a no limit. And I remember he gave me advice that stuck with me. Like, it wasn't even like whatever, like you got to play like this. It was more just in tournaments. He's like, you just got to know how to navigate. There's different stages. You got to know how to change speeds and just know how to navigate and see the path, really. And those words, maybe for most people they want to have clicked, but for me, for some reason, the way he said it to me, and just, it was during my run in Florida when I got the 5th that he said this to me. We were just like on a smoke break or whatever, and I really ran with those words and just like started like trying to just.
What did the words mean to you? I'm just curious. Like, I mean,
just being able to, in a way, that's why I
see the path.
See the path, just. And for now, I've seen the path so much that tournaments, I know how to get there. I know the different stages. I know the different speeds, when I'm supposed to play fast, when I'm supposed to chill back, when I'm supposed to put up the aggression, when people are scared. It's just knowing when to attack, know when to just... It's like, I call it being in the Matrix. Just being in the flow, just, it's hard to explain, kind of, just...
But you're just in the zone, basically.
In the zone, exactly. Just
you see it.
Yeah, seeing the path, just knowing how to get to the end, and just going through with the plan.
It's interesting that when you went to Florida and you had suddenly this survival mode on, like, I can't lose. Like,
yeah.
Like you played like some people would say, like, I played like a nit. You played scared.
Yeah, well,
but there is something about just surviving in these things.
Oh, there is. It's huge. And it was funny because like it's kind of like my style even nowadays in tournaments a lot. I'll play a lot of my big hands small. You go right here.
Yeah.
I'll play a lot of my big hands, strong hands, very weak and passive, because I know these are the spots where I can go broke, because I have to call a lot. Where I'm like a nut when I got like the jack deuce off and I'm 3-bet bluffing with it, I'll take it 3 streets to their head and put them in on the river with nothing. But that's just knowing that in the time I'm doing those moves when I'm pretty sure they're not going to call. It's more just trying to put the cards or the luck into my hands instead of someone, instead of the guy.
Yeah, no, it makes a lot of sense. I mean,
Yeah.
Listen, there's a reason why Phil Hellmuth,
Yep.
As much as maligned as he is.
Yeah.
And
Can
Daniel
get it done.
Negreanu, there's a reason why that like small ball survival style works in tournaments. Like,
Of course.
I don't care how good you are.
You're avoiding coolers. If you keep trying to get it in just because you got good hands, eventually you're going to lose that flip. You're going to,
Right. like it doesn't take a genius from a mathematical point of view to realize that even if you're an 80-20 favorite,
Yeah.
do that over and over again.
Yeah,
Eventually you're going to lose.
Yeah.
Okay, so in the story, the movie version of Jesse Lonis, you know, every good movie is not necessarily just going to go from A to Z, right? It's not going to be a linear story.
No.
So we've got you in Vegas.
Yeah.
You just, you know, you're about to have a baby on the way. You bought a house.
Yep.
You banked $250,000. You are on your way to, I mean, you're well on your way at this point
Yep.
to the Jesse Lonis we know now, which is the #1 GPI player of the, which is amazing, by the way.
Thank you.
I mean, I always thought, by the way, the #1 GPI player was going to be, I always thought it was flawed because I was like, to win that, you have to play super high rollers.
Yep.
And you and Wang probably kind of like
Yep.
proved that's not true. I like that.
We broke the mold. I think.
Which I love, by the way.
Yep. I don't know if they adjusted scoring and stuff in that, but I mean, me and Ben both, we got it done doing it in big fields, winning, you know, going deep, turning 3K and $500,000. We both, you know, did it in, I think, the harder way than, you know, winning the smaller field high rollers. I think, obviously, it's tougher players in the high rollers, but just numbers don't lie. When you're beating out thousands of people, no matter who it is, it's still going to be tougher than beating 60 people. So I kind of like that I got to #1 by doing that. Obviously, I did win a 50K. You know, I won some bigger stuff too, but
Yeah, just a 50K for $2.2 million.
yeah, 2.3. Well,
Who's counting?
Who's counting? Yeah, no.
Does it ever get crazy? Like, you know, you mentioned you and Megan coming from, you know, modest upbringing.
Yeah.
Does it ever get crazy? Like, you and Megan look at each other and you're in your house in Vegas and you've got 2 beautiful girls and you look at the bank account and you're going, what the fuck? How did we get here? Holy shit.
Yeah, it's crazy, but even when I was a poor kid, even when I was 18, 19, I always told myself I was going to be a millionaire in my 20s. I knew I would. I just always.
How did you know that?
Just knew it. I was just. I loved, my addiction was money. Just, you know, like, and growing up just poor and just not having money, or just like, you know what I mean, just not having the ability to get what I want, or clothes, like nice clothes, whatever. So it was just, I was hungry. I was just too hungry to not succeed. So it was just, I just always believed in myself, and no matter what, I would have figured, if it wasn't poker, I would have figured it out in a different business. You know, whatever I did, I was going to be the best at it, and just make the most for my family.
Okay, I said this was not going to be a linear story, so
Yeah.
we know where you are now.
Yep.
And I can ask you about what's next later
Yeah.
on. But before we get to that, I want to know how it started.
Yeah.
You know, where did you first play poker? Where did you learn the game of poker at all?
So, my grandmother raised me when I was a kid. I was born in Alaska, and
You're born in Alaska.
I was born in Alaska. Cool
Really?
fact. Yeah.
Where?
Ketchikan, Alaska. My dad worked on oil rigs. He was he did every roughneck job there was, from working on Bering Sea to working on oil rigs to logging wood, just anything that you could imagine, tough work. That's what he was doing in Alaska. So that's where I was born. And
Was your mom Alaskan?
Nope. My mom was from New York too. Originally, they both moved out. My dad moved out west too when he was young, and was chasing money himself, but did it in a different way. Was trying to, you know, the best paying jobs for tough work was in Alaska at that time.
Right,
you
yeah.
make. So he moved there to work, and whatever happened, he ended up getting in some legal trouble. And both him and my mom, they liked alcohol a lot. They were both alcoholics at the time. So at a young age, it was probably a blessing in disguise. He got in trouble with the law. He had to go to prison and do a stint there for like 7-8 years or whatever it was. And then my mom, she was just not capable to raise 3 kids. I had an older brother and an older sister at that point too. So we ended up getting shipped to New York to live with my grandmother, which...
So at the time, your mom Your mom's in Alaska.
She was in Alaska.
And your dad's in prison in Alaska?
He was in prison. And then she ended up moving back to New York also, but to Utica, which was like an hour away from me or whatever. And just whatever happened, I think she kind of fell deeper into alcohol and drugs and everything. And my grandmother ended up taking us in, and I didn't have much connection with her after that.
Was this your mom's mother or your dad's?
This was my dad's mother.
Okay.
So, so once my grandma took me in, you know, I kind of, when you're a kid, you don't really think about what's going on with your dad and mom in that spot. You're kind of just like living life and just like, you know, whatever, worried about the next day. And so my grandmother, it was a blessing. She spoiled me like grandmas do, and just she had her stuff, everything, her life together, obviously, at that point. So it was all I remember is great times at my grandma's house and everything. So that was great. But her favorite thing to do was gamble. My early vacations were going to Atlantic City, walking the boardwalk, while my grandma and grandpa would play slots and play poker and everything. And I would just be a kid in the casino, jumping on the beds, running around the casinos at night, you know, and I loved it. It was a great, like, childhood.
How old are you at this point?
This is probably when I'm all the way from 4 years old all the way to, like, 10 to 11 years old.
You get some of that Atlantic City taffy?
Oh, yeah.
That's the best.
Oh, yeah. I loved, the boardwalk used to be an amazing place back in the day.
I had relatives down there as well. When I was a little kid, I used to go there.
They used to have street performers. The boardwalk was just packed. You had the Monopoly store. There's a lot of good stuff. It was great. But just that early in my life, gambling was already a part of my life. And then when my grandmother, she used to sell stuff on eBay.
What'd she sell?
Antiques. She was collect antiques, like old antiques, and sell them on eBay. She was a hustler, even at her age. She was
seriously.
And I took it from her, just like always trying to get the money and, you know, just and then gamble a little bit, try to make it into more. But she would play poker, and I'm pretty sure it was full tilt poker back then. And she would probably play for play money or to like 5 cent, 10 cent blinds, just really small. But she would take a lot of bathroom breaks, and then during her breaks, I would take over for her and just grind, and she would come back from the bathroom and always have more chips than she left with. So she like used to make a joke, like, you know, that I was already like, she would tell her friends that I'm already making money, like playing poker and stuff. And
did you know? You knew the rules and everything?
Yeah, I learned quick.
Okay.
It's kind of, you know, I played video games growing up, so in a way it was just like another little video game for me.
Yeah.
And an easy video game at that. Most video games are very tough. A lot of stuff to them. That was kind of like easy. It's just a card game. But then, you know, then I stopped playing in my life. My uncle played and stuff growing up, so he would play tournaments and stuff with his friends, and I would get to play with them when I was like 14, 15, and I would like beat them even at my young age for $50, whatever.
Just naturally
pretty good at cards and I don't know, maybe just naturally. At the beginning, probably just lucky too, you know, but and poker was just kind of there growing up, like, but I never thought I was gonna do it for a living.
I love the fact that your grandma played on full tilt. I mean, I think that's just the funniest thing ever.
Yeah, I think my uncle did too and stuff, because I remember like even going to like an aunt's or cousin's house and playing on his like computer and stuff. Just whatever, it was just always there. And then obviously when you get up, I was playing sports and everything, so poker fell out of my life until after high school. I played, early stages, I was a big wrestler. Was very good at that. Won like, you know, every tournament I entered, I was winning and stuff. And then when I got older, I actually stopped wrestling. I played basketball and always played football from the time I was 4 years old till high school, senior year, whatever. Football, basketball, and baseball were my 3 sports when I got older. And I loved all of them. Love sports still, but yeah, that was my early memories in the poker.
What did your dad do that got him in prison?
The last time he went, he was always getting in trouble, kind of growing up, whatever. I don't ever judge, and I'm not whatever. I forgive him for, we all make mistakes, and he lived a way different life than I did, and you know, he was whatever happened. But at that time he got a DWI. He actually he got drunk and ended up running through a house with his truck, and then like
Ran through a house.
like I got drunk and like went off the road and ran through a house, and then like just woke up and went back to his whatever happened. The Alaska State Troopers like came to his house, and he ended up pulling out a gun on troopers and stuff. It was just like a whole this craziness, whatever. But he went away for a good stint, so that was that. And
Is your dad still alive?
my dad's alive now. Yeah.
You guys talk?
Oh yeah, we're actually, after he got out of prison, I moved back. My grandmother ended up passing away, so when I was like 13 or 12, 12 or 13, something like that, and then I ended up moving back in with my father and lived my teenage years with my dad.
What was that like?
That was definitely tougher than my early years. My grandma kind of spoiled us. We had lived in the country, had four-wheelers, and had like a nice house. When I lived with my dad, it was back to, he was just getting out of, prison and stuff. So it was kind of, I think it was, he was acting, getting used to not, it was kind of like he went from having a prison cell mate to having kids. So it was kind of,
Yeah,
I think it was hard for him to show like the love and affection always, growing up. And it was just a tougher life. Money was not a thing. My dad was working construction, but he just didn't have any money together. So I went from, living nice to life wasn't as nice anymore. It was kind of more, I got to get by on my own in a way.
Right.
And I already was learning how to survive. By the time I was 13, I was like turned into a man, I felt like, compared to most of the people around me. Like
How old are your siblings? You got a brother and a sister, you said?
Yep, my sister is she is 8 years older than me, and my brother is 4 years older than me.
Okay, so by the time you moved in with your dad, was your sister already gone?
My sister was, yeah, she was, so me and my sister, we have the same mother, different father.
Okay.
So she got took in by my mother's side of the family and stuff growing up. So we weren't really, for our older years, she was getting raised by a different family. And she was a genius. She still is a genius. She's a cytogenetic biologist.
That sounds very smart.
Yeah, study of cells is what it is. But she's always been just a super genius in school, like school
Right.
smarts.
Are you guys close?
Very close, yeah.
You are now, that's great.
Yep, she's actually out here now visiting.
That's amazing.
Yeah, she was kind of still my rock. She would always like try to do what she could to like
Help you out.
help me out. But she was,
I'm sure. I mean,
in
she's
college,
21, you're 13, 22, 14. You're going through a tough time, and
yep. So, but she always like was always calling me, looking out for me, trying.
that's great.
Yeah, she's a great person, and yeah. So
What about your brother?
my brother, he's so my brother's like complete opposite of me. He's older than me, but he's kind of like the younger brother to me in a way. I was kind of like the one protecting him in a way growing up. He would get bullied and stuff. He has like a little slight autism in a way, but like he's just not, he's like complete opposite of me in a way. Like I was like the competitive sports, whatever. He was more just liked his like Marvel comics and Legos and stuff like that. He's like a kid stuck in an adult.
Right.
Yeah,
Which it's weird. Like today, that's cool.
Yep.
Like back then, you were a nerd and you got bullied.
Exactly.
Tough,
So
yeah.
like I was already beating up kids that were his age for picking on him when I was like 13, 14. I was beating up 17, 18-year-olds because they were starting with him. So it was kind of like I was the older brother in a way, even though I was 4 years younger.
Are you guys close today? Or?
Yeah. Yep. He lived with me for a while. I try to, I help him out as much as I can.
Yeah. Where does he live?
He's actually, I bought my parents a house in Pahrump. It's like an hour away from here. I don't know if
Really?
you know Pahrump.
Yeah.
Yeah, my dad wanted to, and my stepmom, they didn't like the city life, but they wanted to be close to the grandkids, and Pahrump is like more countryish. So I bought them a house out there. My brother actually moved out there with them now, so they got it's a beautiful house compared to anything my dad, the house that we grew up in was probably, you could sell it it got sold on a tax auction for like $20,000, which is like unheard of.
Yeah.
It's like falling apart, so I bought him a $500,000 house in Pahrump. It's like they feel like the Beverly Hillbillies, like he's in this big like nice house now. It's like it's good, and I'm happy I could do it.
What happened to your mom?
So my mother, she ended up, after I moved in with my grandmother, she lived in Utica, and whatever happened, I'm sure she was still bad into alcohol, and then I don't know, like, obviously what drugs or whatever happened, but I was a young kid, so, it kills me now at this age because I wish I could have helped her, but when you're a kid, there's nothing you can really do. She was like an hour away, and it was just like I had no resources to really help. And but when I was 18, I lived in New York City. I got a call that she ended up got hit by a car actually, and it killed her. It was like a hit and run, and I was in New York City, so whatever. She ended up passing away when I was like 17, 18, about to turn 18. So yeah, we got that call, and obviously that was horrible. It was a thing where when most people, if their mother passes away, it's gonna really destroy them a lot. For me, it was kind of like, it sucked, but she was already kind of in my life, like already passed away because she was never there. So it hurt me more when my grandmother passed away than when my mother passed away because of the fact that I was this close. It was kind of like I was already disconnected, even though I, planned on trying to go back and help her when he saved money and, could, and got older and stuff. But yeah, it was a horrible thing, obviously. I think now probably she's hopefully in heaven or whatever it is, and, at peace now. And I definitely feel connection to her and my grandmother still. Even when I have a big moment and I'm going to play a big day 2 or something, I'll be in the car and I'll, say a prayer to both of them and try to still be connected to them, and I feel like those are my angels. I always tell.
What were their names?
Karen was my mother's name, and Jean was my grandmother's name. Karen Keaveney was my mother's name. And yeah, so like, I have angels, obviously, and I feel like they're looking out for me. I feel like they're always there with me, and just weird different moments in my life. So, yeah, that was that.
So, one of the reasons I reached out to you to be part of the 8-day ride was the tweet you put out. And like I said, I had known who you were, and I was impressed by your poker ability, but, there's a lot of good poker players out there.
Yep.
And I was so intrigued by what you said in that tweet.
Yeah.
And hopefully we can get the graphic up so you guys can see it.
Yeah. When I was writing it, it's never easy opening up about something like that because, like, most people they just think of me as, like, strong, just always smiling, outgoing, but, no one ever knows, like, really what, what brought you to that stage. And I kind of wanted to tell because I want people to know that, like, it's not just poker or like studying or anything. It's kind of my skill and everything comes from, I'm a product of my environment and what happened to me as a child and everything. So it's a lot of things that I'm good at in poker can't be taught because it's from a tough upbringing, tough things that happen, traumatic experiences that shape my brain and the way I think, different than anyone's ever going to be able to think from me telling them how to play or something.
Yeah, I just found it so compelling and vulnerable.
Yeah.
What did part of you feel a need to kind of tell everybody your story?
Yeah, it was like, it was great to.
I love. By the way, I love when people. There's no requirement. You don't have to do this. You can just go on and grind and do your life, and your wife will know and your kids will know, but. The fact that you did, I just feel like for so many people out there that has struggles or struggle on a daily basis, if they see you, maybe they find some inspiration in that.
Yeah, and I just wanted, there was two different things. Actually a few weeks before that, a well-known, Sam Savril, who's a well-known poker player, he posted on Facebook like a long paragraph going into his struggles with like just everything in his life of like a tough upbringing and just like the way he is and why, like, about gambling and just stuff. And it really opened, it was kind of like what I did, just opened up about like a lot of stuff where like people may always think that like we're happy and just always winning and stuff, but there's a lot more to it than just winning. There's a lot of there's reasons that our brain works the way it does. A lot of, like I said, traumatic stuff and that happened. But that, and I wanted to show like how grateful and honored that number one ranking means and what it means to me, coming from what I came from and what I went through, to be able to, be at the top, at the pinnacle of poker and stuff. It's like, just, it means all that and more, just from what I went through and just all the, obviously the bad experiences. So the good is more highlighted.
Listen, I thought it was beautifully written and touching.
Thank you.
And, I haven't had Jason Kuhn in the 88 ride, but I consider him a friend. And I remember when he came out and opened up about all the struggles he had growing up.
Yeah, I've heard his,
And I don't think it's a coincidence that, and you said this, you said, I wouldn't wish this on my worst enemy.
Yeah.
But I don't think it's a coincidence that people that struggled in their life can find success on the felt.
Yep.
Because that survival
and
fighter.
That and like one thing is what I hear from people, and even when I was like starting off, is that, oh man, poker is so tough. Like, oh, this is so hard. And I'd be like, this is easy. You guys don't know what tough is. Like,
Right.
like if this is tough for you, then you've never felt tough. And I think Jason's probably the same way. Like, what poker to us, we can lose in that, whatever. It's nothing. It's that we just can brush it off, where a lot of people think that if this is the toughest thing they're dealing with, there's way tougher things out there.
Right. Can you imagine, okay, like, so what'd you have to do? I had to wake up at 10 in the morning and
exactly.
And maybe I went to the gym and I ate breakfast and then I had to play poker all day.
Yeah. There's single mothers out there with 5 kids working 2 jobs. That's tough. That's what tough is,
Right.
playing
or your
poker.
dad working in Alaska.
Exactly. That's tough. Or I did construction before, grew up working in hay barns, and you know what I mean?
I love the picture, by the way, of you 17 years old with a bum ankle.
Yep.
And you talked about, you're like, hey, I had no money.
No.
But that mentality, you had that mentality when you were 17.
Yep. Even then, even though I was only getting $15 an hour, I showed up with a broken ankle pretty much. It was bad, and did construction 8-hour day, like still ready to go, and gave it my all what I could do with a bum ankle, and that's still what I try to do in poker.
Hey man, this has been great. I have one last question for you. What's next for you? I mean, you've come up the ranks playing, I guess, 5 cent, 10 cent when you played on your grandma's full tilt account, to grinding limit and 2-5 no limit.
Yeah.
Playing small little tournaments, and now you're playing the big boys. You won yourself a World Series poker bracelet. You won the 50K tournament for $2.3 million. What's next? Like,
I wanna try to maintain, obviously, being number one in the world. It'd be cool to obviously try to hold it for as long as I can, and just be the best father that I can be, obviously, for my kids. And in poker, I want to try to sketch my name in history. I want to have a legendary career. I want to make Phil Hellmuth sweat for his bracelets. I want all that. I'm gonna going for glory. Just keep winning and just be one of the most dominant players to ever play the game, hopefully.
Hey, you are very easy to cheer for.
Thank you.
I'll be cheering for you, no doubt.
Thank you.
Hey.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you so much.
That was one of my favorites ever.
Yeah.
I
Thank
really
you.
enjoyed that.